As our international speaker and panelists had already joined the session, so after this, we will have a break. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Maheshwar Neupane, Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, to chair this session, Mountain Culture. Warm welcome to our chair. So over to you, Chair, for the following session.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, Honorable Member of Federal Parliament, distinguished participants, speakers and panelists for this very session, and distinguished participants and media persons. Very good afternoon, and it is a great honor for me to chair this session. And without delay, I would like to introduce the topic, and then I will invite the speakers and then panelists. In this session, we are talking about mountain cultures. Mountains are not only resourceful with the view of economy and biodiversity. It's culturally also very important and very resourceful. If we talk globally, mountains covers more than 27% of Earth's surface and more than 12% of the world population reside in mountain, and many of them are economically and politically marginalized but culturally rich. If we talk about those people, let's say some example, Indian in Peru, Appalachia from eastern USA, Quechua in the Andes, and Khmer Lo from Cambodia. These all people, there are lists of many more. And if we talk about Nepal, we have more than 125 castes and ethnic groups, 123 ethnic languages. Most are spoken in hills, 59 Janjatis and ethnic communities, indigenous peoples, and maximum reside in hills and mountains of Nepal. And they celebrate different jatras, festivals, celebrations, and dances. Linguistically, they are very rich. So, and but still there is a challenge. In our constitution has endorsed cultural rights as the fundamental right of the citizen. We have institutional setups, we have policies, cultural policies, we have programs to enhance their cultural heritages, cultural assets. Still, challenge lies in protecting and preserving their cultures. So globally, we are so culturally connected, not only economically, culturally and socially also we are globalized, but safeguarding the cultural rights of the minorities and developing with sustainability, respecting their cultural values, but very importantly, recognizing the gender issues in development and with cultural adaptation and development is very much challenging issues nowadays. With these, some remarks, some climate setting statements, I would like to proceed with the introduction of our distinguished speakers. Let me introduce Dr. Bernard Deberbergs, Dean of the Geneva School of Social Sciences, University of Geneva. Deberbergs is a professor of political and cultural geography and urban and regional planning at the University of Geneva. Previously, he worked at Grenoble, France, upstate New York, Montreal, and Marrakesh. His works has focused on mountain imaginaries and environmental and regional governance of mountain region, then more broadly on heritage policies and theories of territory. We have another distinguished speaker, Stella Tamang, gender and mountain culture expert. Stella Tamang belongs to Tamang people, one of the largest indigenous people of Nepal. She is founder of Nepal Tamang Women Gedung and National Indigenous Women's Federation of Nepal. She was the chair of Indigenous Women Caucus of UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. She had served as a member of Peace and Conflict Management Committee of Nepal and Nepal government's high-level State Restructuring Commission as a commissioner. I would like to invite the speakers who are available physically here in the dais. We have panelist Dr. Edwin Bornbaum and Lucky Sherpa, member of Constitution Assembly and ambassador. So, first of all, I would like Dr. Deberbergs for his presentation. The time is, we are so pressure with the time. Dr. Deberbergs, I would like to request you to conclude your remarks within 10 minutes. Thank you. So, Dr. Deberbergs, technically, so we will be connected with him later on. So I would like Madam Stella Tamang for her presentation. And again, the time is again 10 minutes for her. So, Madam, so the floor is yours. Thank you.
Namaste and Fiapula. I'm Stella Tamang and I'm Yolmu, one of the most marginalized indigenous people of Nepal. I'm married to Tamang, which is again one of the largest indigenous people of Nepal. Traditionally, I must say that I was born in the year of pig, which means I'm almost 73 years old, having 5 great children, and having fun at this phase of my life. Looks much prettier with the wrinkle on my face and the gray hair on my head. I think I'm enjoying the best part of my life. I must say that this is how we want to define the senior citizens of 22nd century. because 22nd century is not only for the young people, it is for the senior citizens also. Yes, I come from a Lama family from Helambu, and when I say Lama family, it means we are said to be like Tika Lama of the Gombas. We have our monasteries in Takfarka, in Helambu, in Sindhupalchok. I'm blessed to be born and raised by wonderful parents, especially my mother, Pasangdiki, who really helped me to form my worldview and to see and understand and form my worldview and live with it. She would tell me the immense pleasure of getting up in the morning and welcoming the sun rising from the mountain. Our sun rises from the mountain because there are people who would say that their sun rises from the desert, from the sun. Their sun would rise from the sea and from the forest, but our sun rises from the mountain. So mountain is really very important for us. And for us, the sun is the father. The earth is the mother. The moon is our paternal uncle. And the stars in the skies at night, you see, are the symbol of our deceased cousin and relatives. So you know how we look at the star, right? And my mother would also tell me, you know, when I would be sick when I was young, to sit facing the Himalayas when we would have fever, and that, you know, the cool breeze of Himalaya would heal us and will cure us. So this is, you know, how I grew up. Before I really enter into my presentation, I would like to seek permission for two things. Number one, I have used some photos which has the copyright, the crazy wall of 22nd century. And I was shocked when I was looking for beautiful pictures to be presented here. I saw the pictures of my husband also, and it also said, you know, it has the copyright. So I can't use my husband's photo also. This is really crazy, right? So I must say that, you know, some photo falls under that. And the second permission that I want to seek is because I belong to Tamang community and Tamang ethnicity, Tamang people. So, you know, my examples of what I would be saying would be more based on Tamang traditions and Tamang culture and Tamang values. Yeah, thank you so much. And definitely, you know, like we are talking about mountain and like someone said, you know, mountain matters. And we understand mountain having life and regard as sentence, caring, concern, and healing, and therefore we call mountain our mother also. So we have Amachomulungma, and then we call Ama Yangri also in our language. Amachomulungma means Mount Everest. Mountain, a sacred source of spirituality, wisdoms and knowledge, site of worship, means of survival and livelihood, and it's our identity also, which has been said before also. Our culture, ritual, and traditions are emergence of the interactions between the two to protect and to coexist together. The cosmovision, culture, rituals, and tradition they believe and practice, including their livelihood, promote sustainable and conservative use of biodiversity. If you go and visit Tamang villages, especially, you know, a very famous Tamang villages in Raswa, you would be surprised to see how people, especially the farmers, when they would be plowing the field, they will ask for permission before they plow the field. And they can talk to the wooden plow. They will talk to them. And they will say that, you know, when you are plowing the soil, see that you are very compassionate to the small insects that is in the soil. And they will say this by singing. For some people, you will say that, oh, maybe this farmer is a bit exhausted and, is just having fun by singing. But if you try to understand what they are singing in Tamil language, you will find that, there is immense respect for the soil, immense respect for biodiversity. So, and another point is, mountain cannot be viewed definitely without biodiversity and definitely without human being, but it is not enough. For us, mountain is a home and shelter for so many gods and goddesses and deities. So, we cannot exclude that too. And I hope there are so many people who would agree with that. And when we talk about deities, we had a wonderful, a kind of survey and research when we had earthquake. Because we really want to understand, what will be the interpretation of earthquake for a shaman and for the religious and spiritual people, in our villages. And their interpretation is really wonderful. They would say how the deities are not respected and how they have been, aggressively encroached, and this is how they express their anger. Yeah, so. Now, like I said, I would like to go to the second slides. Can we go to the second slide? Can you really move the slide, please? I'm in the third slides because I want to share on Tamang cosmovision. Oh, it's from here. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Oh, yes, dear. Okay. Tamang cosmovision. Tamang cosmovision assumes the role of supernatural power, the way natural processes take place, and enhance the relationship between mankind and nature through their culture and ritual. Human life is an integral union of physical body with a consciousness represented by mind and spiritual forces, and their interaction and relationship with the universe around them. Mountain cannot be understood without living and non-living beings, which are inseparable. Mountain is a part of life of the people there. They are the custodian of mountains and the biodiversity. If we look at the mountain culture, we say mountain matters. I think that it's not enough. If mountain matters, mountain people and their culture matters too, because we cannot be just talking about the mountains in the absence of human being and the culture and practices they perform. Our culture, rituals, and traditions are reflected in our interactions and relationship with supernatural and natural beings that surround us. Especially, we can see that practice and preserve in the layout and setting of the village. If you look at Tamang village, I think you will really understand that. And not only the village, even the structure or layout of the home also. It really will help us to understand the values and the culture. Tamang Namsa, which means Tamang village. Tamang village is a geographical and ritual entity. It is not only geographical entity. Territory is not just political border, but includes distinct cosmology and contains three kinds of supernatural being and ancestral spirit. Number one is La category, that is the god and goddess. We call Sibda, Neda, Lu, Khada, and Seplu. For example, Seplu is more related with the river, with the water, and that is the god and goddess of the snakes. We call it Nak and Nagini. And we also have Mamos, that this is the goddess of smallpox also. And then the second category is Mangs and Shimo, which is the ghost categories. This ghost category also can do a lot of harm to the people. So it's really important that, they are kept under control. The first one, of course, La category is god and goddesses, so you pay homage and do a lot of rituals and puja. And the third category is Bir and Masan category, which is definitely evil spirit which originate from the corpse and haunt the cremation site. But the very interesting thing is, beer, if I speak in Nepali, मान्छेले भन्छ नि beer खेलाउँछ भनेर है, मसान खेलाउँछ भनेर. So there are people, especially the shamans, and there are some other people also who would have possessed a very powerful energy, can really keep beer and masan under their control and make them work in their benefit. So, this is really another interesting things that is present in our villages. Now, I would really like to present another slide, which is Tamang Namsa Mandala. This is a mandala of Tamang village. I'm sure many of you have visited Raswa, and you must have visited Goljung village. If you look at Goljung village, just like that, you will not see it. But if you try to see it from another perspective, it is a mandala. The mandala, especially in the eyes of Tamang ritual specialists, and we really got a kind of sketch of the mandala by the people, by the villagers of Goljung themselves. So our village includes distinct cosmology with certain faith, culture, taste, and means of livelihood. Our Namsa, that is village, is the notion of residence, and it consists of agglomerations of houses with the fields of inhabitants and the habitat of living and non-living beings around it. There exists natural, supernatural being and spiritual forces. The life and the works are controlled by the divine beings and spiritual forces who inhabit their house, village, agricultural fields, mountain, forests, rivers, and burial area. I cannot really point it out, but we have, for example, Sibda and Neda at the top in the mountain also. Those are a kind of sacred places. You will not see monastery. You will not even see a big rock or stone, being, put over there. It will be just, for the naked eyes, it will be just a field or a group of trees, but those would be declared and accepted by the villagers, set aside for it. But it will not be prohibited for any cows or animals to go around. It is just open and people can walk around, but the only thing is, don't try to impure it or pollinate it by doing unhealthy kind of work, okay? So this, you can see how the mountains, and at the foot of the village is the river, and there you see where they have the holy places also, and the village will be in the center. So this is a kind of mandala, and I wish you could have seen it from the close side. This also, I would like to say that the pattern, the structure of the village also is very much correlated or very much coexisting or very much in lines with the sustainable and conservations of biodiversity and how they are the custodian of that. This is just a village of Goljung, and I think the sketch that you see is actually of this village only. And Tamang home also is a shelter of not only human beings, but also the supernatural beings, the deities, the god and goddesses. For example, we say Gorman Dolmo, which is the deity that resides in the ceiling, okay? And then we have Gona Raja, which is at the door, at the entrance of the house. And we have Alan Deva in the fireplace. The fireplace also is very auspicious area. Before you cook something, you put incense or, you try to please the fire god. And we have Kulgina, which is a clan god. So all these deities believe to support and protect the house and the family. So this is one thing that I thought I should share with you. Now the rituals, of course, in Tamang villages or Tamang people are held to maintain harmony between human action, natural environment, and and the spiritual world. In indigenous worldview, the human, natural, and spiritual world are not only inseparable, but they are also in constant interactions with each other, right? So you see in the picture also, actually the second picture is a kind of funeral. For us, mountain is very auspicious, and our funerals and cremation site is always in the mountain. So at the end, I think I don't want to take much time also. I don't want to say this is a kind of solutions, but I would just had a reflection, and I want to share my insight of, how it might really promote and contribute to the sustainable and conservative and sustainable use of mountain and mountain biodiversity. And that is to recognize indigenous cosmovision, culture, and rituals in fostering relationships between human actions, natural environment, and spiritual world. Respect and utilize indigenous knowledge and wisdom, especially of women, for the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. Ensure free and prior informed consent, because in the name of development, the mega projects have become such a threat. Before introducing any development project, protect tangible and intangible cultural heritage of indigenous people, implement the autonomous, cultural, and special region which has been, very well written in our constitution. So this is what I want to just share. And the last one is, our debate definitely is not on sustainable mountain development. This is our wish. This is how we want to see it. The only thing that we want to check, and that my presentation focus is, when we talk about mountain, we are not talking only about the trees and rocks and soils and, insects over there, but also human being. We talk about protected area, and I think the biggest challenge is how this protected area could be made human-friendly. How, human, excluding human, that could really do good to the people, right? So our debate is not on sustainable development. The debate is on what kind of development. In the name of development, are we doing more harm than good, right? Because I think the previous speakers have said very well, and especially I think the distinguished speaker, Dr. Prema. And also the question, the debate is, why we need to do it and how do we do it? Because someone said, do we really need to copy the Westerns or, a modern kind of pattern? Can we do something indigenous also, and where and by whom? I think if our government can really work, invest, assist, and support indigenous and mountain culture, their values and their tradition and practices, I am sure Nepal will have really a wonderful, good practices to offer to the world, which can really contribute to, a sustainable mountain development. So having said this, I would like to say thank you, and especially I would like to say thank you to the Ministry of Forest and Environment for giving me this opportunity. At this age of my life, I stopped speaking from the book. I have started to speak from my mind and heart, and I hope this helps. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your very practical, very example-based presentation. So especially focused on Tamang culture, culturally richness in Tamang society. And lastly, madam has raised a very serious question, and development, why, how, where, and most importantly, by whom. I would like to add to whom as well. Thanking Madam Stella Tamang for her wonderful presentation. I would like to request again Dr. Bernard Deberbrooks, if he is connected with us here. I would like to give the floor to Dr. Deberbrooks, Dean of the Geneva School of Social Sciences, University of Geneva. And I think he's not connected yet. So I would like to move forward. Like to go to the panelists, distinguished panelists of this session. Our first panelist is Dr. Edwin Birnbaum, co-chair, IUCN Group on Cultural and Spiritual Values of PAs. He is Dr. Birnbaum is a mountaineer and scholar of comparative religion and mythology, whose work focuses on relationship between culture and nature. He serves as co-chair of the IUCN Specialist Group on Cultural and Spiritual Values of Protected Areas. Cambridge University Press has just published the second edition of his award-winning book, Sacred Mountains of the World. He holds an AV from Harvard and a PhD from the University of California at Berkeley. So now the floor is for Dr. Birnbaum. I would like to request him to present briefly. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and I want to thank the organizers of the event and the ministry for inviting me to speak here. I'm here speaking as a panelist rather than as a speaker, and I'd like to begin by speaking about what we just heard. I think Stella Tamang spoke very eloquently about a subject which is very close to my heart and my deep interest, which is the sacredness of mountains. And in particular, she spoke really eloquently and in great detail about the importance of mountains as a whole for the Tamang people and the interrelationships between the natural and the supernatural. There is a tendency to look at the world purely in a materialistic way, and I think she did an excellent job of opening us up to a wider and deeper view of the importance of nature. I was especially interested in how she spoke about the interrelationship of the Tamang view of the different aspects of the world. There's the natural world, and then also the supernatural beings and the spiritual forces, and how the culture and ritual brings these together and harmonizes them. An important point that she raised is culture as a solution for sustainability. And this is something that the group that I work with, the specialist group at the IUCN, on the cultural and spiritual values of protected areas, also known as the CSVPA, focuses on. The idea being here that in order to make programs of conservation or sustainable development really sustainable, you need to engage and look at the cultural and spiritual aspects of these things. It's not just the natural, but it's also the cultural, which is extremely important. So the group that I co-chair, one of the things that we have done, in other words, unless you bring in the importance of nature and people, and I think Ms. Tamang did a really good job of speaking about the importance of the human in the natural world, and the role of culture in bringing all these things together. It's extremely important to focus on this, because unless you engage people culturally and spiritually in the importance of conserving nature, especially at a time now with global climate change and so on, the projects that you do for not only economic development, but also conservation of culture and nature will not be sustainable. And by bringing these in, we can also make these programs not only more sustainable, but more inclusive and more equitable for all the parties involved. The group that I co-chair, the CSVPA, has recently developed some IUCN best practice guidelines for integrating the cultural and spiritual significance of nature into the management and governance of protected and conserved areas throughout the world. And this, I think, is something that is very important. So in this work, which is available on the IUCN website, it can be downloaded. What it does is it presents a number of guidelines in different areas on how to do this. We look at cultures throughout the world doing this. I should sort of come back a little bit. I have very close feelings and attachment for Nepal. I first came to Nepal many years ago in 1968. I came with a Peace Corps, and I must say that some of the most formative experiences of my life took place in Nepal. Most recently, I worked consulting for several years with ISIMOD on guiding them through the process of trying to get Mount Kailas in Tibet and the pilgrimage routes leading to it over the Himalaya from Nepal and India nominated as a Transboundary World Heritage Site, and work is still going on that. I should say, as I say, I worked on projects that had to do with listing and microfilming Tibetan texts. And then I became very interested in what mountains mean to people, starting with what mountains mean to people in Nepal. Of course, the Himalaya, the whole range is actually sacred and is embodied in the deity Himalaya himself. And of course, each mountain has its particular deity and importance. And in my book on sacred mountains, one of the longest chapters is a chapter on the Himalaya and various mountains such as Mount Kailas, Annapurna, Machapuchare, Kanchenjunga, Nanda Devi, and other important peaks. So I think it's very important, the last point that Ms. Tamang raised, which is it's not only development, but what kind of development, who does it benefit, and who has really control over the development and what's being done there. And I think it's very important to bring in the views of practitioners and also the views of the humanities. When we speak about culture, we're talking about what inspires and motivates people at the deepest levels. And I think one of the important things about mountains, if you look at it worldwide as a phenomenon, and mountains and sacred mountains as a basis for mountain culture, is that because of their tendency to arouse a sense of the sacred aspirations and values of people and cultures around the world. So I think mountain cultures and focusing on mountain cultures is really a pivot and a key. So again, I want to congratulate Stella Tamang on a really interesting, intricate, and very valuable presentation that, from which I learned a great deal, especially about the Tamang people and their relationship to the environment, and deepened my experience and understanding of indigenous cultures in the Himalaya and in Nepal. So thank you again. And again, I want to thank everyone for this conference and for inviting me to participate.
For your insightful and very inspiring remarks, especially focused on Madam Tamang's presentation. Now I would like to invite Madam Lucky Sherpa, Member of Constituent Assembly, and I'm from Ambassador to Australia from Nepal, Australia and New Zealand from Nepal. She is a Constituent Assembly member and social activist of Nepal, and represents first indigenous woman and the first Himalayan community to be appointed as ambassador by Nepal government. She is General Secretary of AFNA, and there are much more about her with the time limit. So I stop here, and I would like to request her for her remarks as a panelist. The time is yours. So again, so please consider the time.
Thank you, Chair. Speakers and Honorable Minister and all the delegates of this wonderful conference. I would like to thank the organizer for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be part of this very important event. Being one of the representative of the mountain communities of Nepal, it's my great pleasure and honor to be part of this policy dialogue on sustainable mountain solutions. Well, having heard by our speaker, Stella Tamang Didi, I recall those memories while we were together on those indigenous peoples movement, raising the issues of identity, raising the issues of all those, like rights and recognition. So thank you, Stella Didi, for your wonderful presentation. And I would like to endorse all her remarks that she has said. And I wholeheartedly would like to acknowledge your presence and would like to thank you. And today I felt like after being a member of Constituent Assembly, I was very much focused on drafting the new constitution, which could analyze and identify the rights of indigenous communities, minority rights, and even the women issues as well. So I was more like an activist than turned up to diplomat. So in diplomacy, also, there was a question that has always been raised is a connection, a people-to-people connection. So today, I would like to raise the issues of mountain culture and how these cultures will connect us, not only nationally, but also globally. While I was an ambassador for Australia and New Zealand, the Nepalese communities, the culture that they used to they used to have during most of these, ceremonies and religious festivals abroad, that brings us so much close to the country, close to the nation. So we can analyze what kind of importance that we have while we promote our own Nepalese culture and traditions. So today we're talking about the mountain solutions, sustainable mountain solutions. Being one of the PhD scholar on sustainable energy management, what I felt is we talk about the sustainable development, but we forgot to talk how we are going to, sustain it by ignoring the peoples? Not at all. I think we have to first analyze what kind of need our peoples, have. What kind of development they really look for? I think that has to be the priority to have a sustainable development. And the mountain communities, I think in Nepal also, this is one of the most ignored populations in our country. Still, our development plan and policies has not reflected, analyzing the needs and, rights and recognition of these communities. We used to use this culture and traditions just like Jhanki and Jatra only during the conventions and ceremonies. But while we develop plans and programs and policies, in most of these areas, we forget about these communities. I think this is the issues that we have to, have a solution from these kind of conferences and from these kind of regional policy level programs. So today we are talking about the mountain solutions, and we always used to connect our mountain culture with the tourism as well. But the tourism promotion, without promoting the indigenous mountain peoples, I think that is not possible. So we talk about promoting the tourism and tourism promotion in our country, but how we are going to foster the indigenous mountain culture, I think that has to be the focus plan of the tourism ministry as well. Because tourism ministry, they only focus about how we are going to promote tourism in Nepal by ignoring the fact about the culture, traditions that we indigenous communities have in our land. So if we are planning to develop and sustain our mountains, then we should not ignore the mountain communities and mountain people's issues, I think. So today, we have our friend Mahendra Bahadur Sai. He is here. He was the former member of National Planning Commission as well. What I felt is, there is an issue of promoting the culture, tourism in Rara area. But have tourism plan been consulted with these, people, the Rara, the Karnali communities? I think that has to be one of the major areas of concern of today's development plan and policies. So sustainable mountain development is not possible without developing the culture and traditions of the mountain communities and mountain peoples. So this has to be one of the major concerns. But still, the mountain development has still been neglected because of the regional disparity that we are facing. Especially the mountain peoples are still facing that regional disparity. We're not getting that kind of, adequate budgets in spite of inaccessibility and fragility and marginality that we have in our land. Because the budgetary arrangements are basically focusing more on the population basis, right? So this has to be changed, especially in the mountain regions context. So today we have already gone into the federal system. Nepal has remained for the last 240 years remained unitary and very centralized system. But our federal system has also not been able to function in a federal way. So that is also one of the major issues that we have. Because if that issues could have been resolved, then these issues of this, disparity and, marginality has not been, raised. Because the federalism that we have planned and designed was not the federalism that is existing in Nepal right now. It is almost all unitary state structures. So this has to be changed through the administrative effective administrative guidelines, I believe. Because political process will change, will go, one party will come and go, but the administrative section, the bureaucratic function is here. So that's why this has to be capable enough to lead the present federal system so that any individual mountain communities should not feel discriminated and ignored. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for your remarks. So, congratulating Madam Stella Tamang, and again thanking Dr. Bornbaum and Mrs. Lucky Sherpa for their remarkable presentations. Then what is the main message we are taking from this session? I would like to concentrate on these issues. Madam Stella Tamang has very practically shown the picture of the Tamang society and their cultural richness, their rituals, and their association with the nature, especially with the mountains. And so, in the final linking with the sustainable development of the mountains, and linking practical things with the philosophy, with the issues is very important, I think. So, last month I had the opportunity to visit some museums, and in one of the museum there were some collections from ancient Mustang civilization. So the artifacts, the collections were from the 800 BC. The potteries, the coin made of mud, and other livelihood-related artifacts. So it shows how ancient is the civilization in mountains in our context. So, needless to say here that we are very rich and our civilization is very ancient with that respect. And now so in the beginning I highlighted that we have more than 125 ethnic groups, more than 123 linguistic communities, and many more. So most of them are from the minorities, and there is the challenge to preserve their culture, preserve their language, preserve their rituals, and preserve their customaries and traditions. So now we are struggling to find their language, their characters, and so let's say some of the examples like Kusunda and Rautes and all these things, Chepangs. So while we talk about cultural diversity and conservation and preservation, so we often talk with the economic issues like Ambassador and Member of Constituent Assembly, Madam Sherpa has linked those things. Culture with the economy, with the tourism sector, and with the protection of cultural rights, indigenous rights of the indigenous people. Then, what are the challenges? The challenge is how we link this cultural diversity with the sustainable development, sustainable mountain development. How we preserve. I see the challenge in knowledge transfer as well. With the impact of globalization, our many tangible and intangible cultural assets are endangered. So let's say the artists from Patan. So how the another generation is taking over the skills of their fathers and grandfathers. In the mountains as well, how these minority people's coming generation will be transferred the knowledge, and how it will be linked with the sustainable development, how it will be linked with the education system of 21st century and the use of technology. These are pertinent questions, I think. And the last speaker has also highlighted the importance, the necessity of addressing by the government in its budget and policy and programs. So I think we should invest in mountains, as we discussed in the first technical session. The investment in mountain economy. Similarly, so investment in the mountain means not only mountain economy, mountain culture, mountain diversity, and people who reside in mountain, maintaining their culture. And the role basically not only in investment, but harmonizing the investment. Why I am pointing this thing is, we are, as already mentioned, in federal system of governance, and rights are distributed in 3 layers of government. And some of the cultural rights are there with the local government, some with the provincial government, and regulation, standardizing, and maintaining the standards, these all lies with the federal government. So how we can harmonize all 3 layers of government with their effective coordination and with the priority setting. For this, I think we need shared investment. We need wise and prioritized investment. And we have to acknowledge the rights of the mountain people, their culture, their religion, their language, which is guaranteed by the Constitution. With this point, I would like to conclude this session, especially thanking Madam Stella Tamang for her very practical, very experience-based presentation, linking with the philosophy. Very much impressive. So for me, as well as for the whole audience, I think. And I would like to thank Dr. Bourbon, as well as Madam Lucky Sherpa for their comments as a panelist. And I would like to thank for providing me this wonderful opportunity to chair this session and be part of the international part of this dialogue of International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development 2022. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you so much, respected chair, speaker, and panelists, for a wonderful insights. Thank you so much. With this, we come to the end of today's session on behalf of the organizers, I'd like to express sincere gratitude to all of you for your valuable presence, and we are really grateful to all of the chair, speaker, panelists throughout the whole session today. We couldn't have done it without your support and help. Once again, thank you so much for all the speakers, panelists, and chairs. And thank you so much, Honorable Minister. We wholeheartedly acknowledge your presence. Thank you so much. And we are really humbled and grateful to Honorable Bimla Madam, secretaries, international delegates, CSOs, academia, media, Ken from AFIO, and all the media persons, everyone, thank you so much.